Hi folks, and welcome to my channel. If you're new here, hi, I am Holly and I am a book cover designer based here in sunny Nelson, New Zealand. And today's video is a bit of an impromptu one because I am the guest Instagrammer over at ABDA, which is the Australian Book Design Association, for the month of July. So I'm doing a post every Monday of this month. And this first post was going to be all about some of my favourite books about book design, but actually an Instagram post doesn't give me enough space to really show you the details that I'm sure you want. Because we book designers and people who are interested in book design tend to be quite detail orientated people. We like to see inside books before we purchase them, I imagine. So I thought having this video would be a nice little extra to show you some of those details and the sort of physicality of these books. So without further ado, let's get into it. The first one is this wonderful volume here, which actually I had a really hard time hunting down because I had seen it when I worked in a bookshop, and I knew that it was a book called Book about books, and as anyone who has had to do any kind of Google search or Nielsen book data search, you will know that that's an incredibly difficult thing to find. So when I did find it, I was absolutely delighted. This is kind of amazing and a little bit different from other books about the history of books in that it labels everything, which I really love. So on the cover here we have the title obviously and the subtitle, but we've also got the binding tape and the hinge, we've got the head and the foredge and the foot. And likewise on the spine we've got a lot more detail. Inside the book it labels different typographical features as well, and the end papers, things like that. So it's a good reference in that sense if you need to know what a particular part of a book is, but also it's a fantastic look at the history of books, the history of book design. It takes you through sort of paper making, book binding, you know, going way back, and it's just really interesting to anybody who is interested in that area of history. It's called A Cover-to-Cover Exploration of the Most Powerful Object of Our Time, which I'm sure we as book lovers would all agree with. Alright, so the second one here is a book that I have talked about before, but not for a really long time. I actually did a whole video talking about the design of Lolita several years ago. It was when I had just started my channel, I think. And this is a look at the design of a single book throughout history. It's quite a garish cover, but that relates to Nabokov's original desires for the cover to have just a plain cover on his book, and this goes into lots of different book covers that are not plain. And this was also a project, so a collaborative project between lots of different designers where they went away and designed their own versions of Lolita. So we have got covers, the one that stands out in my mind is Jessica Hische, but there's one from Michael Beirut, lots of other big names in here. And it's so interesting to see how all these different designers have interpreted the same text. And I think that it's a really interesting thing to just look at one single book as opposed to some of these other ones that I will share with you shortly, which have lots of different titles in there. All right, so this one is singular in the fact that it is all about Penguin cover design. Now, there are many of these that Penguin has put out. I've got a few others on my shelf, but this is the one that I picked because this is the most recent one, I believe. So this is Classic Penguin Cover to Cover, and it's focusing on the classics and different classic series. This is was put together by Paul Buckley, and I actually spoke to Paul Buckley about this when I interviewed him for the Spine Magazine podcast, which I will link down below. This is fantastic because it goes into a lot of detail about the different projects, like the Penguin Drop Caps series, the beautiful Penguin Threads editions, which are embroidered, and it takes you through a bit of that process. Lots of very famous series of recent times, and how they sort of hark back to earlier penguin designs and how they riff on things like the classic orange penguins. All right, then we have another one of my favorites. This is probably the one that I reference the most, just because I love this period of history. It's not quite as glitzy and doesn't have the same production value as some of these other ones, but I love the content of this because it goes through lots of old book covers. So this is the art of American book covers from 1875 to 1930, which is a kind of golden age of these beautiful book bindings. After this, paperbacks came in and the whole book design scene changed, but this is really a time for beautiful gilded covers and lots of ornament and decoration, which I absolutely love. If you've seen any of my work, I definitely riff on this idea a lot. Finally, we have this one here, another quite recent release. I think this came out a couple of years ago. It's the illustrated dust jacket from 1920 to 1970. So this is kind of the follow-on from the American book covers, in that this is when book design really changed between 1920 and 1930 is the overlap of these two books. So this is by Martin Salisbury, and he goes through lots of different cover designers and does a little bit of a biography of them, shows some of their work, and I really enjoyed this because of the depth that he goes into in terms of each designer, and you can definitely sort of pick and choose which ones you read about, which ones you're more interested in. Lots of women in here as well who designed covers, not quite as many as men, but it's interesting that book design, both in America and the UK, was something that women could do and were quite involved in. That's something that comes up quite a bit in this book as well. There are some very prolific female book cover designers, and I could do a whole separate video on that because it's a topic I am very passionate about. But yeah, so those are the 5 books that I have picked from my shelf to share with you today. I do have others. This was a good representation and showed a good spread of different types of design. So let me know down in the comments what your favorite books are about cover design, if you have any, and if you would like me to talk about women in book design. I probably will do that anyway at some stage, but if that is something that you would find interesting, let me know down below. I will also link Abda's Instagram page down below if you want to go and check out the original post that this was inspired by. As I said before, I will be talking more or posting on the Abda page every Monday for this month, so there might be more little video things. I'm not sure. I've got a few ideas up my sleeve and I've just got to narrow them down because there are a few too many of them. If you like this video, feel free to subscribe to this channel, and you can always hit the little bell thing if you want notifications popping up saying, hey, there's a new video. That's a thing. And as always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.